So welcome to another episode of the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast. I have a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Oz Nembhard, um, and we're here to talk about his story, which is a fascinating story. He's a great friend of mine. We spent a lot of time back in the day on soccer sidelines as soccer dads, driving up and down the Northeast with our sons. So Oz and I spend a lot of times having these conversations. So I know he's going to be able to add to this conversation around the immigrant experience, navigating education, culture, everything. So Oz, welcome. Thanks for
Well,
doing
thank
this.
you, Derek, and congrats on your new initiative. I think it's going to be helpful for especially immigrants coming to this country. It's a lot of roads that we can travel, and I would love to share mine. Um,
Yeah.
so I grew up in Jamaica. I went to school there until um, I did college there. So I immigrated to Canada when I was maybe early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I had a career where I worked. I was in the telecom business there, so I worked and go to school in Jamaica. And then we have families, Jamaicans tend to love to immigrate to North America. So a lot of our family left in the early 60s, 70s, and immigrated to Canada. So
Mm-hmm.
as a young man, I traveled a couple of times there, and as Jamaicans, we think grass is greener on the other side. So um, we moved there, and
Mm-hmm.
as an immigrant moving to Canada early 20s, it was kind
Mm-hmm.
of difficult because
Mm-hmm.
nobody really tells you, hey, the winters are cold, or growing in Jamaica, you see people like yourself, you're going to see
Mm-hmm.
people who are different from you, different
Mm-hmm.
parts of the world. So it was an experience that kind of helped to help me to make decisions as to how I navigate the system. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest problem as an immigrant moving to Toronto at the time was the expectation was, well, I'm going to find a job and things are going to go smoothly and you have no problems, and you're going to have the best job you can ever have and no
Mm-hmm.
problem. Well, all of that was crap. This was the
Yeah.
early 90s.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it was difficult to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
We set expectations high,
Mm-hmm.
especially how we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
One of our focus growing up in Jamaica is get as much education as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So we think we had all the pieces
Mm-hmm.
to simulate in that environment. And what you would find um, was that being an immigrant in a multicultural city like Toronto, it's very hard to find a job because um, Canadians are looking for people with Canadian experience, which,
Mm-hmm.
it's bullshit. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry for my language, but
No, you good.
um, they use these terms, Canadian experience, and it's when they say Canadian experience, is like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
I was a functional person, and doesn't happen to me alone. It happened to many immigrants that come here.
Yeah.
If you go to Toronto, you'll see doctors driving taxi and that type of those stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that hit me is like, well, I'm not going to find a job that I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I do? So I went back
Mm-hmm.
to school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Also you have to deal with the cultural changes. We Jamaicans love their food. You don't have that as, regular as you used to have when you're growing up. So you
Mm-hmm.
go to the whole weather, the food, missing your country,
Mm-hmm.
missing a lot of stuff. So
Right.
my thing was, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
So lucky enough, I had a support system. I had lots of friends. And when I decided to go back to school, they said, hey, go for it. I did 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And after 4 years, I worked in Toronto. I worked for a wireless company. And I thought, well, what is it that I really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask me what you really want to do at different times in my career, I may not have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go there, is I need to survive.
Right.
So for me, survival was go to school, and after school you figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So went to school, got a job in a wireless company, worked there for maybe 3 years, um, and I decided that maybe I need something more. And luck was in my favor.
Mm-hmm.
I met a guy who used to work for the company that I was working at, and he got a job in the States working for a wireless company. And it was December or in the fall, and he came back and we were talking. And I said he was from Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
and he said Oz. I said, um, I think I want to do something else. I need a change. And he said, send me your resume.
Mm-hmm.
And send the resume to him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got an interview in Northern Virginia, that's in the Metro DC area, for an interview, which I attended. And in 3 months, I was here working for a wireless company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from a cultural perspective, so I'm going to go all around in circles, but
It's all good. It's all good.
um, um, when I decided to leave Toronto to move to the DC area,
Mm-hmm.
most people think I was crazy because
Mm-hmm.
Canadians see the US very different.
Mm-hmm.
I see opportunity.
Right.
I'm looking at here's what I have, and I think I could do this there. So even the people who I work with, I didn't tell them
Right.
that I got a job. I just decided to leave, and they say, "Hey, he's leaving without a job."
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So I decided to move. I got a job here. We moved back. I think I moved. It was March.
Mm-hmm.
Great company. I don't want to call a name. It was a wireless company.
Right.
I did maybe 18 years with them. Great company.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great experience working there.
Mm-hmm.
But um, when I moved, my first son was born in Toronto, so we all moved here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we can talk about how we navigate the whole educational system for him.
Absolutely.
But when I moved, um, the job, I'm going to talk about immigrants and how immigrants are treated in different places,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody have a different experience. My experience is when I work in that company, and I did a company went through changes where we were bought by another company, and another company bought another company. But
Mm-hmm.
in my experience in working here as an immigrant is
Mm-hmm.
in America, if people are interested what you bring to the table. If you
Mm-hmm.
come to work and you give you 100%,
Mm-hmm.
also I had bosses that actually didn't look like me,
Mm-hmm.
but respected the work I did.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them were mentor to me. So I learned a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of the things that we were taught, even in a management perspective, is when you're hiring people, hire people who are not like you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very fortunate to have bosses who was not like me, but they
Mm-hmm.
respected the work that I do, and I would learn a lot from them.
Mm-hmm.
My first boss always tell me, give of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an 8 to 5 guy, I don't want you. So
Mm-hmm.
you develop all those little habits talking to people. Um, Also, the company that I work for, we were purchased by another company,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that saved me from not getting laid off, it was the fact that I'm always there. I'm always giving up myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going above and beyond, and you know, those are the things that helped to shape me as I grew. Um, so, um, so, I did 18 years there. In that 18 years, I happened to have a second child. I had a son that was born in Toronto. I had
Mm-hmm.
another son that was born here. When we moved here,
Mm-hmm.
um, we are trying to, I think when we moved here, my first son was about maybe
Mm-hmm.
3 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to figure out how this school system is going to work. I'm not
Right.
familiar with school system in America,
Yep.
so we did a little research.
Mm-hmm.
At 3 years old, there's not that many options for school, so
Mm-hmm.
we found a church. You know, those are the church schools that run, they are
Mm-hmm.
churches, but they run these little programs.
Yep.
We said, let's try that.
Mm-hmm.
We tried that. Was a great experience. My son went to school maybe half a day,
Yeah.
um, and that worked out fine. We
Mm-hmm.
still haven't experienced, how do you navigate this, education stuff? How do
Mm-hmm.
because, you're not really thinking,
Yeah.
we moved here, we are thinking about how we, simulate in the US environment and, find somewhere to live, choose the right place to live, find a good school system
Yep.
that's going to work for you. When I moved here, we actually lived in Reston,
Mm-hmm.
maybe about 20 miles west of DC,
Mm-hmm.
and we were looking for somewhere to move.
Mm-hmm.
So we started looking around the Northern Virginia area and found a place in Leesburg, which is maybe 35 miles west of DC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not knowing, again, you're trying to figure things out. So one of the things about the good thing about the Northern Virginia area, the school system are very good. Um, when you move to an area and you have kids, one of the things that you, as parents, that you need to do, or we did, was trying to figure out how good is the school system. You
Mm-hmm.
have to, again, you know, we're not rich.
Mm-hmm.
Our legacy for our kids is having a good education.
Mm-hmm.
When we were growing up, we have family member who went to college. Well, if you go back to my family history, my grandmother, grandfather are, they didn't go to school. Most of
Mm-hmm.
them didn't go to college. That's how life
Mm-hmm.
was in Jamaica.
Right.
And then their kids, which is my aunts and uncles, they were the first generation to go to college. So we saw
Mm-hmm.
that. We,
Mm-hmm.
at 13 or 12, we saw our aunts going to university,
Mm-hmm.
and she was always preaching, hey, that's what we need to do. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know, like, entrepreneurship or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, go to school.
Yeah.
So when we moved here, we start looking for a place to live. We start, you know, uh, Leesburg wasn't on my first option because I actually didn't like living here because it was totally different. We were
Mm-hmm.
moving from Toronto, which is a big city, to a town that you can drive through in 5 minutes. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not a place for people like me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you used to the bustling of a big city, and you come to
Mm-hmm.
a city where it's there's no street lights. Most of the roads
Yeah.
don't even have lights. So you're
Yeah.
like, can I live here?
Yeah.
So we moved here. My second son came along. You know him.
Mm-hmm.
He plays soccer with your son, same age,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we start doing the school thing. So after the church school situation, the younger ones start going to elementary school. So we send him to school.
Mm-hmm.
Still, don't he's going to school because we go to school in Jamaica. Go to school.
Yeah.
So people say the school system is good,
Mm-hmm.
and so we send them to school. So the first one, he's like 24, 26 now.
Mm-hmm.
Started elementary school, and one of the things that happened to us growing up in the Caribbean, when it comes to like school, our parents will go to school, and as you said, your parents
Mm-hmm.
will go to school and don't let me have to come there.
Yeah.
Well, when we were growing up, it was the same thing. Just go to school, do your schoolwork. Even though, uh, we, to me, maybe that was one of the problem when you grew up in the Caribbean, when your parents are not involved in your day-to-day activity at school.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have your parents going to school that often to go check with a teacher at parents-teachers meeting. So my approach was totally different.
Mm-hmm.
with my kids.
Hmm.
One of the things that when you grow up in the Caribbean, because of a lot of stuff, single parents, economics,
Hmm.
a lot of parents don't have time to actually do those things that are, key in your
Hmm.
development as it comes to school. It's just how it is.
Yep.
Um, so, so when my youngest started elementary school, they would send stuff home. We were very active in,
Hmm.
let me see what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, and we never missed a meeting at school.
Hmm.
Very hands-on. So that was my approach. Everything that goes on, and one of the things that you need to understand as a parent,
Hmm.
especially the minority parents, if things are happening at school and you're not there, the
Yep.
teacher is not going to look out for your child. Just as a fact, if you don't care, well, why
Yeah.
should they care? So you need to
Exactly.
be involved.
Hmm.
I always believe that the school system, you should be, at the end of the day, the school system is just a vehicle,
Hmm.
right? It's not going to guarantee that you're going to reach your destination.
Yep.
You have to determine what you want out of it. And most people think, well, you live in a schools, and Northern Virginia schools are very good. We are very lucky that we have a school system here that help to guide our kids.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it's not the same around the country.
Right.
It's not the same in a lot of, as Baltimore just up the road from us, and they have lots of challenges that we don't have. DC
Hmm.
to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
So so the hands-on approach was one that I took. I didn't miss.
Hmm.
I know all the teachers, and
Hmm.
it's so funny when my kids graduated from high school. Their elementary school teacher was outside with
Hmm.
plaques of their
Yeah.
picture when they're going to elementary school. So
Nice.
we
Nice.
we developed that bond with a lot of teachers from I
Yeah.
still know their names.
Yeah.
But when they were in elementary school, everything that they did, we got involved. The teachers knew us. And
Hmm.
as a matter of fact, at one point, my youngest son, he talks a lot.
Yeah.
And I would have to go to school, and the teacher would say, "Hey, well, your son talk." I said, "Ma'am, I know."
Yeah.
It's, and one of the things again, you need to be truthful about who your kids are. I
Yeah.
think a lot of families and parents think their kids is this this handsome, well, fantastic kid,
Hmm.
and they're not kids, right?
Yeah.
And my approach is they're kids.
Yeah.
You need to know them. So I used to get complained like, a note would come on and say, "Hey, your son was talking in class," and I'm like, "Okay, Miss Johnson, it's true. He
Yeah.
talks a lot. You fix it."
Yeah.
Right. So our approach was a hands-on approach with
Yeah.
everything that goes on in school. We know the teachers, we know what they're doing. The biggest issue is circumventing the the curriculum.
Hmm.
Right. So we don't know what programs are available to kids. One of the
Hmm.
problem is we don't know. Um,
Hmm.
so I was lucky to have the first one go through the process. So
Yeah.
example. They have all type of program at school, and they have a program that tell you, hey, your kids is a genius and this and that, and we didn't understand any of that.
Hmm.
So so you need to understand what program from a school perspective, what programs are available to help your kids to develop.
Definitely.
We didn't know that, right? So when my first son went to middle school, and
Hmm.
these are the things we didn't know. There are things like programs. They would have math, and they would have maths one, two, and three,
Okay.
right? And you would have to meet certain requirements when you were in elementary school to do higher grade math.
Okay.
We didn't know any of that. So we learned
Hmm.
that on the way, like other parent that we know say, huh, but your son can do this math. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
So knowing the program and knowing what is available each step of the way is important. You should go to
Yep.
school. What programs are the school provide? How do you transition from elementary school to middle school? And because to be honest with you, as soon as you get to from I think middle school, you have a number.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that's how we all have a number in everything we do. You're
Right.
ranked.
Hmm.
The college process is. how
Yeah.
you rank in school. The
Yep.
top colleges pick the top 10,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it goes. So
Yeah.
it started from middle school. Those grades that you get in middle school transition to how I do in high school and college. That's
Yeah.
what they look at.
And what you qualified for in high school
Right. And
from
what you
middle school?
qualify in high school from
Mm-hmm.
middle school. So the biggest issue when we transition from middle school, my my youngest son, which is the same age as yours, said to
Mm-hmm.
that he was in a meeting one day with some parents and t
Yeah.
some teachers, and they said, "So what do you like about school?" And he said, "Recess."
Yeah.
Right? You basically didn't like school, right? So
Yeah.
again, you have to, kids are in elementary school. Um, they don't understand. So as parents, we have to kind of guide them. So
Yeah.
from the transition from um, middle school to from elementary school to middle school for us was a little bit an eye opener because there were programs that my son could have, well, my son could have qualified for,
Mm-hmm.
but there was nothing in place when he was in elementary school to guide him there. So
Right.
what I did, I started learning about these programs.
Mm-hmm.
Example, so math and science I find very intriguing because that's where, I'm an engineer. That's where I push my kids. So
Right.
one of the things that the school does, it says it has these math programs, and they kind of they kind of put your kids into those programs based on tests that they did in middle school and how they perform in math.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm learning about that. So the first year in middle school, they have these math courses, and I'm learning about it, and I'm like, well, I want my son to do the higher math. And the guidance counselor said, well, he's not wired for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm said, how are you wired for something if you're not
Yeah.
exposed to it?
Right. Right.
So to me, one of the things with the school system, and again, as parents, it's your
Mm-hmm.
job
Mm-hmm.
to, at the end of the day, when your son or daughter is out of school, nobody's going to come and say, well, you didn't do, the school, they're not going to blame the school system. They're going to say, you are the problem. You should gear your kid up for all of these stuff. So I said to the guidance counselor at the time, when my first son went to middle school, I said, I want him to do the highest grade math that he can do
Mm-hmm.
in middle school. And they said, well, he can't. And I said, why? And one of the comment was he's not wired. His brain is not wired for that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, since his brain is not wired for it, let me sign
Yeah.
and put him in there.
Yeah.
Right? Let me sign and put him in there. We
Yeah.
put him in there, and actually the work was just the course was just more work. It
Yeah.
wasn't that the work was harder. It's just like we're gonna give you more work to do, and
Yeah.
you have to do it. And
Yeah.
a learning experience navigating the education system here is that there are courses that your kids can do
Mm-hmm.
that will help them to develop. And one of the focus that we always focus on how good a kid is. How do you know how
Mm-hmm.
good a child is? By
Yeah.
not exposing them to something. And actually sometimes failure is a good thing.
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
we have a school system that we look at A's and you're good, but how at 15 or at 13 or 14 you're good at anything?
Yeah.
So for me, if you're exposed to it, you're either gonna learn something
Mm-hmm.
or it's gonna show that you need to develop,
Yeah.
right? So we had to, we actually got him into the program, and to be honest with you, it was totally a joke because he
Yeah.
did well,
Yeah.
right? So so the second one, so the first son went through middle school, went to high school, and the same thing in high school. Which programs are available, what is available for your son. So we start learning now. So
Mm-hmm.
in middle school, we start learning, well, these courses are, other kids' parents will tell you, hey, this course is good, this teacher is good. Also, you have to navigate the teachers
Right.
because not because we live in a era where the schools are good, you still have crappy teachers, right? You have
Yeah.
teachers who just show up for work and just show up for a paycheck. So yeah,
Yeah.
you also have to navigate which teachers are good and try to get your child in that course or
Right.
that class. So out of middle school, the oldest one went to high school. I tried to push them in the science world. We in high school, there's I think your second or third year you can do AP courses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those courses are advanced courses that you can get college credits for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, we're learning. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, hey, push them in as many AP courses as possible. That was kind of a mistake to
Mm-hmm.
push, when you're pushing your kids. AP courses are good,
Yeah.
but remember your grades are also what they look at
Mm-hmm.
when you go to college. So, your rank, a number, and
Yeah.
with your SAT score and everything, they look at the whole picture.
Yes. You got
So
to find a balance.
you got to find a balance. We didn't find a
Mm-hmm.
balance with my first son.
Mm-hmm.
He's struggling some of those AP courses, and peer pressure. He's
Mm-hmm.
working much harder.
Yeah.
There are kids that in his class that are not doing AP, and they're having life easy.
Yeah.
So, you have to manage expectation,
Mm-hmm.
exposure,
Mm-hmm.
what you like to expose them to in middle school, in high
Mm-hmm.
school.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I did also was to try to get them out of their comfort zone. Do courses that you're not familiar with. I had
Mm-hmm.
my kids doing programming when they were going to high school. They, my first son didn't like it because he didn't like the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but it actually helped him in college
Mm-hmm.
because programming, if you're doing engineering, you're going to be exposed to programming different language. And in high school, a lot of high school have these programs, programming and, that can help them to develop.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to high
Yeah.
school, you're not seeing the material for the first, when you go to college, you're not seeing the material for the first time. So we
Right. So
did that.
early exposure to programming is good, right? So he was exposed to it early on.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't about early exposure to stuff that
Yeah.
is not in your comfort zone because as a parent, you don't really know what your son wants to
Mm-hmm.
study. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good to expose them to different things. My first
Yeah.
son didn't like programming, but he was exposed to it. So he's like, I
Yes.
don't want to do programming. I don't want to be a
Yes.
programmer. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So no, we have to navigate, well, what is it that you really want to do? Now we expose you to
Mm.
something, what you really
Mm-hmm.
want to do.
Right.
And as young adults, it's kind of hard
Mm-hmm.
to navigate. Well, you want your son to go to college, because Jamaicans and people from the Caribbean, we think school is going to, get us to that promised land.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's necessary not for everybody,
Right.
but that's how we grew up. Go
Yeah.
to school, learn as much as you can, apply yourself, and everything will be all right. So
Yeah.
that's my mindset.
Yeah.
Whether I'm wrong or right, again, we can also debate that maybe that's not the
Yeah.
right thing.
Yeah.
Um, so we went through the college process. So we did 4 year high school with my oldest one,
Mm-hmm.
navigate the high school system, and then um, his second is in his second year of high school, which is a sophomore year, we
Mm-hmm.
start talking about college
Mm-hmm.
and what he wants to do. And to be honest with you, you know that most kids don't know what they want to do.
True.
So we started doing the college tours. We did a couple tour college in Virginia, and it's so funny. The first college we went to for a college tour was VCU,
Mm.
and he said, "Well, that's where I want to go, Dad."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "How did you figure that out so quick?"
Yeah.
But anyway, that's it. Again, when they're young, you expose them to things. So we expose them to a college tour, what programs are available. I think the
Mm-hmm.
first time he went to a college tour, they were doing bioengineering
Mm-hmm.
course, and he said, "Oh, yeah, that's what I want to do. It's cool." And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So we went to, it's junior year, sophomore year, we went to those college tours. Also, when we were growing up as kids in the Caribbean, culturally and how we grew up was totally different. We could go and play soccer on the street,
Hmm.
which I did
Hmm.
with my
Hmm.
friends, and it's that freedom that you had is like your parent. It was safe. You you go play with your friends, and lunchtime you come back home. Then after lunch you go back and play. You do things, and then in the evening you come home. That's how we
Hmm.
grew up.
Yeah.
Here, everything is structured. So I
Yeah.
can't find anything for my kids to go do.
Yeah.
And it's not safe either. You can't just
Yeah.
have your kid gone. So what we did is we find stuff for them to do. Soccer
Hmm.
was one of them
Yeah.
because that's the only game I understood.
Yeah.
So we put them in soccer, both of them. They did travel soccer, and that's how we met actually, Derek. So
Hmm. Yeah.
so we find stuff for them, not just from an educational perspective to grow, but
Yeah.
things that will foster teamwork,
Hmm.
sports that, whatever sports, team sports is very
Hmm.
important. Um,
Absolutely.
you know,
A lot of lessons from sports, right? How to
lot
deal
of
with
lessons.
adversity, how to
Yes,
deal with different personalities.
yes.
Yeah.
It's a real world. It can't get
Absolutely.
any realer than that. And actually, and it's so funny because both my kids, their team didn't win a lot, and you can
Hmm.
attest to that. And
Yeah.
it was never about winning. For me,
Hmm.
it's about competing,
Yeah.
right? We drive long, different road
Yeah.
trips when
Yeah,
you're
man.
coming back when you get beaten 5-0, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not a good drive coming home. But it wasn't even about winning because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, let me just talk about the whole sports thing while we're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
We have this thing here where, especially, our kids do soccer, and this notion that they're going to be the best soccer player in the world, and they're going to go
Mm.
play club soccer or professional, and it's far from the truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't, playing sports here doesn't give you the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
If less than 1%, that's going to turn out to be a professional. So the whole idea of playing sport is teamwork. When you lose, how do you handle it? Because a
Yeah.
lot of time we lost game,
Absolutely.
and it makes you stronger. So
Life
um,
lessons.
life lessons. So
That's transferable in school, it's transferable at
everything.
work. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So back to so we did the high school for my eldest one. We started touring colleges from sophomore year.
Hmm.
Um, then we have to prepare for um, the courses that we think are going to get them to that next level. And
Hmm.
every parent is different. What
Yeah.
you think your kid want to do today may change tomorrow.
Hmm.
So again, we do engineer, so find something engineer to do. I don't
Hmm.
know what it is, but go find something engineer to do. Since you don't want to, you don't know, go study engineering. Just pick an engineer and go do it.
Yeah.
So they
Explore.
explore. So the first one, we did the ACT, SAT.
Hmm.
One of the things too with immigrants is getting the right resource to
Hmm.
get good test grades and the SATs and ACTs, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
people who can afford to do the extra, um, what do you call it,
Tutoring
tutoring
courses.
and
Hmm.
courses like that, those kids are the kids that are going to go to the top school, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Resource.
what it is.
They have the resources
They
to
have
prepare them.
resources, right? They have
Yeah.
resources to prepare them. So, there's this discussion of, is it fair
Hmm.
if, I can spend a couple $1,000s on my son to get a good SAT scores, and the other
Hmm.
child who parents have to be doing two jobs can't afford it.
Yeah.
Those are issues that happen,
Yeah.
especially in the immigrant community, is a
Yeah.
lack of resources
So
here.
let me say this real quick, Oz, and I think this is a very important point you're making, all right? So when it comes to let's just speak about SAT tutoring for example. When it comes to SAT tutoring, like you said, you could pay a couple thousand, or some people pay, tens of thousands to have their child receive the tutoring so a kid gets close to a perfect score. Now, if you're an immigrant family and you don't have those resources, in lieu of the resources, what you can do is just start preparing earlier. right? You
Right.
can go to the library, you can go to Barnes and Nobles, go to Amazon, buy the book, you can use Khan Academy. Just start earlier because
Yes.
by 11th, 12th grade, you have to take the SATs more than likely. If you don't have the money to pay for an SAT class or to pay to hire a tutor, you just have to try to start as early as possible. And as
True.
early as possible could be just introducing the child to the idea of the SAT, working on vocabulary in the fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade. They could start taking practice SATs, practice PSATs as early as possible. And these resources you can get online. A lot of it you can get for free. You can get it from the library, or you can spend, maybe 20, $30 and buy some practice tests.
There's a lot of resources that are available,
Hmm.
and again, in high school, you should be working with a guidance counselor.
Hmm.
They can help you with those resources. The
Yep.
other thing is, as a parent, especially in high school, you have to show up. You have to be there for your child. And
Hmm.
to be honest with you, um, and I don't want to sound negative,
Yeah.
but if as a minority you don't show up for your child,
Hmm.
the teacher ain't gonna show up for your child either. They're gonna
Yeah.
think, well, he doesn't have a parent, and that
Yeah.
sets a bad precedent. If
Yeah.
there are cases where, and this is human nature,
Hmm.
people are going to like you or don't like you.
Hmm.
And, it happened in the school too. Teachers just
Yeah.
don't like kids. So
Yeah.
you have to go represent your kid. There
Yeah.
was a situation where my youngest one had a problem
Yeah.
and with a teacher, and we
Yeah.
went and we deal with it. And the
Yeah.
actually school did a great job with making sure those things don't happen in the school. So as
Yeah.
parent, if you're
Yeah.
absent from your kid's education, the teacher is going to
Yeah.
also be absent.
Yeah, and this is a very sensitive subject when it comes to immigrants, right? Because a lot of times, like you're saying, it's absolutely true that you have to go to the school, show up, you have to be present, you have to advocate for your child, you have to let the teacher know, hey, these are my expectations, and these expectations are not being met by my child, just please inform me so we have this open line of communication. I think the challenge becomes a lot of times when the parents aren't really comfortable. Like going into the school can be a little bit intimidating, especially if the parent didn't have as much formal education that they're confident in, right? So sometimes the school environment can be, especially in a new culture, it could be a little bit intimidating, but parents
Right.
have to find ways to team up with other parents and really work to overcome that because your child's opportunities and their future really depends on how well you advocate and support them through this process.
That is true.
Hmm.
And again, remember, America is a country where we have people from all over the world. As you said before, English may not be their first language. So
Yep.
if you can't speak English that well, how do you go and we find that especially Hispanic kids are at a disadvantage because
Yep.
most of them are English as a second language and the parent can't
Hmm.
speak English. So
Yeah.
um, that's a total different issue. However,
Yeah.
um, as I was saying, it's important for you to have that relationship, especially with the guidance counselor.
Hmm.
Very important. That's going to be one of the most important person in the school who's going to help your kid to navigate the system. And
Absolutely.
I can give you several examples of, because we push our kids to do courses that are difficult.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have that discussion with the guidance counselor to determine, are we pushing too hard?
Yeah.
And we can get feedback. And they will tell
Yeah.
you, well, Oz, maybe it's not a good thing for him to be doing 4 APs because it's going to affect his GPA,
Hmm.
right? So have him do maybe one or two. So you need to have that relationship
Yep.
with the guidance counselor, you know,
Hmm.
always go, see them 2, 3 times a year.
Hmm.
Especially when they in a junior, you
Hmm.
have to go to school.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so we're navigating the high school thing.
Hmm.
We push our kids to do courses that they're not familiar with. AP course, maybe one or two or three, depends on how best we think they can adjust to that kind of intensity.
Hmm.
They were doing preparing for ACT and SAT early. I think we
Hmm.
started back in a sophomore year, and
Hmm.
it's very difficult. One of the problems that we had as parents was telling. your son to spend the summer and study ACT or SATs and do the material. So you have to find a way to motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot as you said, there's a lot of material that is available.
Mm-hmm.
The the, um, the tests are available. You can download them, the answers
Mm-hmm.
and the explanation. So we did all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then we started the college application process. I think in the junior year. I think it was maybe January of their junior year, somewhere
Mm-hmm.
there. And then we started to, identify which schools are, a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Also, most people don't know that from your ACT scores and your
Mm-hmm.
SAT scores, there's lots of scholarship that you can get.
Yep.
So if
Yep.
you have great scores,
Yeah.
colleges, I think the college board either I don't know how they integrate with the school to get
Mm-hmm.
those scholarship, but um, my oldest son got a scholarship just from his grades. We didn't go to the school because
Mm-hmm.
where it was located.
Right.
He got a full scholarship just from his ACT grades. But
Yep.
when you factor everything out, um, it didn't make economic sense. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that option is available. So the
Absolutely.
ACTs, the test scores are important
Mm-hmm.
because if you score well, you actually, as minorities, they
Yeah.
know who you are. So,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to say, "Hey, this kid, yeah, we're going to try to help him." So that help is
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me say this. I think for parents listening, a lot of what you're talking about are merit scholarships, right? And those are
Right.
based on how you perform academically. So how you perform in your regular high school courses, and that includes, how many AP, how many honors courses you take, how well you do in those courses, how well you do on the AP exams. It also includes how well you do on the ACT and the SAT, right?
Right.
Because a lot of scholarships that colleges offer are really based on your grades, the rigor of the classes that you take, right? In terms of like how many AP, how many honors courses you took, and then the scores that you got on your ACT or SAT. So if you do well academically, there's a really good chance that you'll have a chance, that you'll be able to receive some form of merit scholarship to help, cover the cost for college.
That is true.
Yeah.
So we did the college tours. We did some in junior year of high school. Also, when you're doing those college tours and deciding which school to go, always look outside your state,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, there are good state schools, but also um, there are also opportunity outside your state. My son went to a school out of state,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I would encourage, yeah, but the cost is obviously a problem,
Mm-hmm.
but if you live in the state of Virginia, example where we live, and you're going to Virginia Tech or James Madison or Virginia UVA,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the students from this area is going to that school. So it's kids that you see.
Yeah.
I tell parents, have your kid go to another part of the state,
Yeah.
um, you know, get to meet new people and
Mm-hmm.
expand.
Yeah, because
It
that
helped
helps to
my,
build it helps to build a network, right? Because you have
yeah,
your high school friends, and now you meet another group of friends. So now you've
yeah,
expanded your network,
exactly.
and that helps in when you're applying for jobs. It helps if you have a business. It helps in a whole host of areas as you progress into adulthood.
That is true.
Yeah.
So we did the whole college application process. My son, the oldest one, got into maybe be careful too when you're applying. One of the things that we learned is we did 15 schools,
Hmm.
total waste of money.
Yeah.
Pick, right. So again, we're young. We're like, which
Yeah.
school do you want to go? Well, let's
Yeah.
make a list, and then you come
Yeah.
up with a list of maybe 30, and then you cut it down. We
Hmm.
did 15. I don't think you need to do more than five or six.
Yeah.
So that's again, we learn as parents,
Hmm.
we're doing this college thing for the first time. We
Right.
learn that you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
Pick, look at your grades.
You can only go to one school at a time.
You can go to one school and actually look at your
Hmm.
grade and be aware that don't try to go to Princeton if you have grades to go to Virginia Tech or
Yeah, yeah.
VCU.
Hmm.
Those grades match up with the school. You can match up the grade with the school, and don't
Right.
try to think you can beat the
Yeah,
system.
absolutely. And I think
So
to piggyback on that point, Oz, and I think this is a very important point that you're making, and we don't want to gloss over this. Part of what I think you're saying also, and what the reality of it is early preparation, right? And intentional preparation. Like if you're going into the engineering track, like it's really important that you start exploring that early, right?
right,
In middle school, early in high school, because then that allows you to then take the courses that you need that are going to prepare you to actually enter into an engineering track when you get to college. Because when you get to college, you'll be, if specifically, if you're going to Princeton, for instance, for engineering, and Princeton has a really good engineering program, if you're going to Princeton, which is an Ivy League school, a lot of the kids who are coming into Princeton are coming from, elite private schools where they've
exactly,
been they've been exposed to programming and they've been exposed to robotics labs and they've been exposed to Math Olympian summer activities. They've just been exposed to a lot of things that
right,
really prepares them to get into Princeton. And so now if you're a kid who kind of gets wind of engineering late, let's say your junior year, your senior year, you would not have had the same amount of preparation if you're trying to go get into Princeton with these kids who've kind of been on this track since, elementary school almost.
exactly.
So,
That's
so
the
I think
point.
that's, yeah, so I
Yep,
think, and I'm piggybacking on your point where you say if you have grades for, a certain school, it may not apply to this other school because this other school is really, has a program that's really pipelining kids who have been exposed early and
right,
who have, sort of committed early to that type of preparation.
exactly. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, the transition from high school to college is huge in terms of
Hmm.
expectations, right? So
Absolutely.
if you're in high school and you're not doing well in a class,
Hmm.
the teacher may give you extra work for you to make your grades up. In college,
Hmm.
that doesn't exist,
Right.
right? In most colleges, right? So
Hmm.
either you sink or you swim, and you can't complain. So,
Yeah.
where we live, a lot of parents think their kids are that great, and when
Yeah.
they get bad grades, they blame the teacher. Well, when
Hmm.
you go to college, you can't go complain against any instructor. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. So you have to
Yeah.
be prepared, as what
Absolutely.
you were saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think part of what you're saying the preparation, the expectation, the early exposure, the early exploration, and then making sure that all that is in alignment with reality. Right. So you
Exactly.
have to, so that your expectations actually line up with the reality of the situation. Um, and I think that's part of it where I have this book here that I want to share with folks. It's actually one of my favorite books, man. And it's this book. All right. Can you see the title of that?
What high school don't tell you.
Hmm. All
Right.
right. And so this lady has written, actually she has a couple of them. She also has this one.
I can see that one. The light is too.
Yeah, it says what colleges don't tell you.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So she wrote
So,
this book
so you're
also.
right. So,
Yeah,
so
so
yeah,
that
there's a
yeah,
lot of stuff out there that you don't know.
absolutely. Yeah.
And as I said before, we navigated it without knowing a lot of stuff. It's
Hmm.
so funny that after I went through the college whole process and high school. I knew so much that I could be a counselor. I'm like, don't do that, or don't. So,
Yeah.
like, don't apply to 15 schools.
Hmm.
Apply to
Yeah.
about, four or five or six, one that
Yeah.
you're sure you're going to get in, one that you think you're going to get in, and one
Hmm.
that, in between. So,
Yeah.
so
And
go
and
ahead.
what I appreciate about you, man, is that, you're a very involved parent, a very supportive parent. And I think that type of advocacy is what it takes. Like if you're going to give your child the best chance to succeed, and when you said, the legacy you're trying to give to your kids is education, and then you're walking that, you're backing it up. You're not just
Right.
saying it, but you're living it, right? And your kids are seeing that, that their parents are committed to their success. And I get it. There are going to be some single parents, who there's just not enough time in the day between working and, you may have two kids. One kid is at this school, the other kid is at this school, plus, the parent has to work. But having these conversations will definitely help parents to understand the importance of advocacy, right? The
Right,
importance of understanding the landscape of the American education system and the nuance that's in it, right? Like
right.
there's a lot of nuance. We're touching on things here, but we can still go even deeper because there's a lot of nuance into what you're
That
saying. You
that
know
is
what I
true.
mean?
Give
Yeah.
you stories, but it would take
Yeah.
maybe a 5 hour interview. But
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so we got my oldest son got into some good schools.
Hmm.
We chose out of state. He went to school upstate New York to a little private
Hmm.
engineering school, which was
Hmm.
I think was good for him. Uh,
Hmm.
he he didn't know what he wanted to study, and it's
Hmm.
kind of funny. He went to school for 4 years and he cried every day. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, that's it. You should cry. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
painful. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be easy.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand about college is it molds you to be a better person in how you apply yourself. You're not going to be a scientist when you get out,
Hmm.
but you'll have enough to understand how to solve problems. And
Mm.
that is what we wanted. When you go to school and go to college,
Yeah.
you ain't gonna come out and be I'm a scientist.
Yeah.
You just start learning. You're gonna
Yeah.
know how to apply yourself. You're gonna know how to
Yeah.
work with people. You're gonna know how to behave in certain environment. And
Hmm.
they teach you and prepare
Yeah.
you for for life ahead, even though you don't
Yeah.
even see it. So,
Yeah. Listen, this is a great point that you're making because ultimately it's easy for parents to say, listen, like you want your child to have a college degree, right? So you could support the kid makes it, graduates from college, but that's not the end of the road. You know what I mean? That's barely scratching the surface as the beginning because what you're talking about is the child still has to be a lifelong learner, right? You're just starting off, right? So
well,
it's not just
that's
like, we
it's
got you.
yeah, it's so funny. So, when my son was going to college, one of the mistakes that I did,
Hmm.
I told him to study electrical engineering because he didn't
Hmm.
know what he wanted to do. And I said, well, think about it. He can't see this, but as
Hmm.
parents, we do.
Hmm.
We have to be careful that we don't have kids going to college to do things that they don't like.
Mm.
Right. So you t
Alignment.
right, yeah. So you tell him, hey, go be a doctor. But I don't want to be
Hmm.
a doctor.
Hmm.
Right? And then if I'm maybe not want to use doctor, but
Yeah.
if you choose a profession that Robert told that kid,
Hmm.
then you wasted your 4 years at college. So be
Hmm.
careful when you're selecting as parents. Don't try to, and again, it's a mistake that I made. It actually
Hmm.
turned out well because the engineering field, there are tons of engineering courses out there, and you
Hmm.
have electrical, you have mechanical, you have aerospace.
Yeah.
So I told him, he said, well, I don't know what I want to do. And I said, if you did electrical engineering, you can do anything,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. You
So
can pivot easily.
yeah, so it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that there's a particular, you can do whatever you want to do in the engineering field.
Hmm.
And it worked out. And when he was going to school as a parent, big mistake,
Hmm.
don't try to help them.
Yeah.
Don't try to, try to teach them to be their tutor. Leave it
Hmm.
alone. I did that,
Yeah.
because he wasn't exposed to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And because I was trying to help him. Not a
Yeah.
good thing to do. Leave
Yeah.
them, let them go figure it out. Let the
Yeah.
school try to help them. Let them find help. At the
Yeah.
school, they have programs and stuff. So I touch on, be careful you choose a course that you don't like.
Hmm.
Um, my eldest one, we had a lot of arguments about, well, he was always complaining that the work is hard. And
Hmm.
I'm like, but do you want it to be easy?
Hmm.
What, do you want to work hard for what you have? And I said to him, but every course in that school is hard.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
It's
no
it's
way
not
around
it's
it.
no way around it. So he would argue. And at the end of the day, let's fast forward, he graduated. He struggled a lot, which is fine.
Hmm.
You're supposed to struggle in life. It's
Hmm.
how you get out of that.
Hmm.
Right. So he struggled a lot, which I knew. But if we fast forward today, um, I can see the benefit of that struggle.
Hmm.
Right. One, he's independent.
Hmm.
As parents, we want them off our payroll as soon as possible, so they don't
Hmm.
ask us for anything. Good. But he he was able to find a job, decided that I don't like that job, find another
Mm-hmm.
job,
Mm-hmm.
decided that I want something else,
Yeah.
right? This is where I want to go. So as a parent, for me, I've done my job.
Yeah.
He can determine what he wants to do now. He was, like he got a job 2 years ago, and I said to him, "Well, how much are they paying you?" And he laughed and he
Yeah.
said, "Not enough, Dad."
Yeah.
But he's doing well, and
Yeah.
that's what you want from your parent. As a parent, that's what you want. You want him to
Absolutely.
get into a space where, they can have a career, they can make
Mm-hmm.
good decisions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you they don't have to come to you for anything else. That's
Yeah.
the important thing. And a lot of
Absolutely.
parents, especially immigrants, um, we tend to be parents, and we're parents to kids when they're 40,
Mm-hmm.
right? Financially. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good. You want them
Yeah.
to get out there, go live your life.
Yeah.
You may you may come across some hard times, and you have to help them.
Yeah.
But financially, they need to go and figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's how we grew up in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Use education to get you to that next level, and we
Yeah.
push our kids into that kind of
Yeah.
realm.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I want to tie this in with you real quick. So with your oldest son, with everything that you learned with him along the way, you were able to iterate and adjust for your younger son, right? And based
Correct.
on your two sons, and no two kids that are alike, even though you have two boys, and they have different personalities. They're their own, person, right? So how as a parent, or how as parents did you like make the adjustment for your younger son after, the lessons you learned with the older one?
Right. So let's talk about some of the lessons we learned. So
Mm-hmm.
we send the oldest one to an engineering school that's just engineering.
Mm-hmm.
It was out of state, a bit expensive, but to me, I think if you do well,
Mm-hmm.
um, everything will work itself out. That finance
Mm-hmm.
for you pay for college, you'll pay for it. That's how
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So the youngest one, we did similar in terms of courses,
Mm-hmm.
similar engineering background. I don't know what I want. Well, actually, he wanted to be a video game programmer because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kids love video games. So all of a
Right.
sudden, he was he was playing Xbox for
Mm-hmm.
3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
As parents, that one of the mistakes that we do to as parents, especially people from the Caribbean. We come to this country and we just have our kids do things that we never used to do, and we know it's not going to get them anywhere.
Right. Right.
Video game is
Material
one of them,
comforts. Yeah.
right? So, um, with the second one, we went along the same line as do AP courses. Don't do that many. Do maybe two just to feel yourself to see where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Exposed to things like programming in high school, and I'm going to come to why that is important for the second one and not the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so we did the same thing, similar, cut it back a little. Our kids play sports, so have that sports background to, learn to work as a team, play high school sports, play club sport. Um, when he came to college, instead of doing 15, we did five.
Mm.
And we, the first one I was too hands-on, so I'm making
Mm-hmm.
the decision. Do
Yeah.
this, do this, do this.
Mm-hmm.
We're driving 6 hours to college campuses. The second
Mm-hmm.
one, I'm like, I'm not driving 6 hours.
Right.
So,
Do
so
a virtual tour.
yeah, so do
Yeah.
pick five schools
Mm-hmm.
or pick six.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things when you have a sibling that have gone to one school and you have a younger sibling, the school is going to actually find that you have a younger sibling, and they offered him a spot
Mm-hmm.
without him applying
Yeah.
to the school where my oldest son went. He said he didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why, because the oldest one told him that the work is hard.
Yeah.
So don't go there.
Yeah.
They'll kill you.
Yeah.
Basically, you won't have any time to don't go. So he made up his mind, Dad, I don't want to go to that
Yeah. Take
school.
yeah,
The
yeah,
work is
take that
too
off the
hard.
list.
The work
Yeah.
is too hard. And I'm like, well, the work is supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
So we took it out of the list
Yeah.
and we kind of let him choose. So there were good schools that he got into. The second one, he got into some very good schools, and they were out
Mm-hmm.
of state. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, you know, I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, bro, this is a good school. How many kids would like to go here?
Yeah.
And he said, Dad, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So he said he wanted to go in state.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, Virginia Tech and UVA are maybe the top, Virginia Tech, UVA, and
Mm-hmm.
William and Mary are some of the top schools in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, we applied for UVA and Virginia Tech. He really didn't want to go to UVA, but I
Mm-hmm.
said, apply for it. So we
Mm-hmm.
did UVA, Virginia Tech, George Mason, and George Mason was a safe school. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to pick a safe school that, hey, I can get into this school, right?
Yeah, no
If
matter
worst
what.
come to worst. So
Yeah.
George Mason was his safe school in Virginia. His he didn't want to go to UVA. I would love him for him to go to UVA.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, let's try it. So he was waitlisted for
Mm-hmm.
UVA. Very difficult school to get in. We
Mm-hmm.
know it was going to be tough for him to get
Yeah.
in there, and he
Yeah.
didn't get in. He was
Yeah.
happy, right?
Yeah.
So he got into Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech was a school he wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why
Yeah.
he wanted to go there, but
Oh, you want to be a Hokie?
well, so it's everything to him is Virginia Tech. So
Yeah.
he wanted to go to Virginia Tech from a junior. He got in, and the rest is history. He's one of the issue with going to this public school that people don't even know to navigate when you go to a public university. Like private university, when you go there, you declare what major you want to do, and you
Mm-hmm.
get into that major. In
Mm-hmm.
a public university like Virginia Tech, you're not guaranteed a spot in what you want to do. You have to go through the first year
Mm-hmm.
and get the grades to be accepted in the program you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Great
was a
point.
bit, yeah. So you're not, the public university is not going to say, hey, you're going to come here and you're going to do mechanical engineering from day one. No,
Yeah.
everybody does the same engineering programs
Yeah.
for the first year.
The
And based on,
prerequisites.
yes, it's a
Yeah.
prereq. And based
Yeah.
on your grades, you either make it or you don't. And you have
Yeah.
to have a second option.
Yeah.
So he said he wanted to do video game. Remember we talked about that I
Mm-hmm.
want to program video game. So that
Yeah.
was kind of good for me. I said, when you're going to high school, go do programming. But
Yeah.
the whole idea to do programming wasn't for video gaming. It was to get him some experience.
Right. Right.
Right. So he went and he did programming in high school, didn't like the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually learned a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
when he went to college, in the second year of college, he was doing programming.
Yeah. Came in handy.
Came in handy. So I said to
Mm-hmm.
him, "Then how was it?" He said, Dad, it was easy. And I'm like, easy? How is it easy and you struggled in high school?
Yeah.
But I know because he's seen it for the second time,
Yeah.
now everything is making sense to him. So
Absolutely.
going from I want to do video game programming, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him to do that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't stop him anyway.
Yeah.
But getting the experience in programming and go to college and
Mm-hmm.
seeing it and applying himself and say, oh yeah, I can do this. Very
Yeah.
helpful because if you've
Yeah.
never done programming before, when you go to college and do it for the first time, it can be intimidating,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. But he
So
was already exposed to it early. So,
he was
like you
at
said,
Raleigh.
seeing
Yes,
it the second time,
yes,
it was a refresher.
yes. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, States.
It's all good, man.
All right, so um, we know that when you see things for the second time, it's easier for you to grasp. And the
Mm-hmm.
more you see it, the more you learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't decide what he wants to do. So I tell him we had that discussion, with school. Again, we learned from the previous one, my previous one, not to apply to 13 school, apply to
Mm.
about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And also start preparing. So what I used to do, I used to print the past ATC tests and have him
Mm.
do it in the summer,
Yeah.
right? And we time it. It was
Yeah.
again very difficult for kids to sit for 2 hours and do a test. Maybe
Yeah.
we did 20 or 30 tests. We were
Mm-hmm.
doing them like crazy.
Yeah, man.
Very
Yeah.
difficult for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No, you're
but
good.
But as you said, those tests are available. You print them off,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do them, and you print the answer off, and you go
yeah,
through, and
yeah.
you again. So we did that with the second one.
You get those
Uh,
reps.
get those reps in, and we did a little bit of tutoring too. Oh,
Hmm.
it's hard to determine if he benefited from the tutoring. I
Hmm.
don't know if he did.
Yeah.
His grade didn't. And one other thing with the ACTs and the SATs, if you take them too late, so
Hmm.
suppose you do the ACTs and you get ACTs, you get say 28,
Hmm.
and you redo it within 6 weeks,
Hmm.
your grade doesn't improve.
Not that much. Yeah.
Right,
It
not
stays the
much.
same or goes
It stay
down.
the same. It
Hmm.
basically it'll stay the same, and you may get higher in one and lower in
Hmm.
the other, but it evens
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
we learned that from the first one. So we started early.
Yeah.
And one of the other thing is if you do it 2 times like the ACT or SAT, some people do it 6 times. Don't do it more than two.
Yeah.
You know, the kids are going to get
Yeah.
frustrated, and their grades are not going to improve that much. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it depends on when you start preparing. When you,
Absolutely.
if you're a junior and you did it like in December as a junior, just leave it alone. You're not going to get
Hmm.
maybe one you can try, but
Yeah.
from what I've seen, and again, I'm talking as a parent here.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional in that field, but
Yeah.
what we have seen is that your grade don't improve that much.
Yeah, yeah. But the early
So
preparation is key though, like you said. And I
yeah,
like the fact that you said you printed it and you guys did about 20 of them in the summertime because I think that's really the key. If you don't have the money to pay for tutoring, but you can get those reps in, you can simulate like the actual testing environment where they have to sit for 2 hours and kind of really just crank it out. As painful as that may be for a young teenager, it will pay off down the road.
correct. That's the thing. It's simulating the environment because
Hmm.
sitting for 2 hours to do a test is not easy,
Yeah,
and doing it, because you start losing it's like
yeah.
you're fatigued, you're
Hmm.
losing your ability to think straight after,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
It's mentally draining, right? And also when you simulate it, you want to simulate it around the same time that the actual exam is going to be,
that is
you
true.
know? So
That is true.
if you know the exam is going to be 9 a.m., then you have to, simulate it at 9 a.m. Don't do it at 9 p.m. because more than likely you're not going to sit for an SAT or ACT at 9 p.m. at night, you know?
Correct.
So, but I think the reps that you got in, and also if you can tie that into sports, like if you're playing a sport, it's about practice, it's about practice, it's about practice, and so that correlates over to the academic side, right?
Right.
Okay, if I worked on this to perfect my technique here, then I need to do the same thing on the academic side. I have to just work at it. I have to work at it. I have to get the reps in so that I can get better and sort of
And
master
and
this
and
this
and,
task.
and to add to that, remember when I said when we were growing up in Jamaica, we used to do things, example, I used to play
Hmm.
soccer with friends.
Hmm.
It's a way of getting out of staying out of trouble,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So again, you want to do something that is going to help them, and they may not see the benefit. Actually, it's a health benefit too.
Hmm.
We live in a country where, half of the country obese. So
Hmm.
it's a way to live healthy. So you start from
Absolutely.
early,
Yeah,
so when they get older, they can, hey, I
yeah,
need to live healthy life. So that's
yeah.
one thing too.
Absolutely.
So we
These are the
did the
the multi benefits from sports,
the
and it's
yes.
not all about the professional aspirations, but it's
No.
all about it's the added benefits that you get that translate into real life perfectly.
There's actually zero benefit from sports in terms of what most people think it is. We are
Hmm.
gonna, my son is gonna be the best player. He's gonna play
Hmm.
professional. It's actually the best benefit from sport is teamwork and healthy lifestyle. So,
Absolutely.
um, so college starts for the young one. He decided, hey, I want to go to in-state. He got into
Hmm.
Virginia Tech. We talk about, the fact that you're not guaranteed a spot in what you choose. You have to work
Mm.
hard, right? So
Yep,
you
yep.
you go to tech. You want to do, chemistry or physics. You want to be a physicist. If you don't get good grades in your first year, you ain't
Hmm.
gonna be a physicist, right? You
Right,
ain't gonna
right.
get it. So we went through that.
Getting in is just the first step.
Getting in the first step. And
Yeah.
again, as one of the things that I didn't talk about with when my oldest one was going to college is the peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these colleges, I'm going to give you a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
So, first year, you're on campus on a dorm. Second year, they kind of push you out, because they don't have enough space.
Mm-hmm.
The the oldest one decide he's gonna be in a frat house.
Mm-hmm.
So 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 we drove up one day, taking him back in second year, drove up to this frat house, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how these things work, right?
Yeah. You're
So we
learning on the
got
fly.
we learned on the fly. So I went into this frat house. He's the first one there,
Mm-hmm.
and first of all, the place is nasty.
Yeah.
It's messy.
Yeah.
There's dirt all over the bathroom. I don't know how they bathe in those bathrooms. They're
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah.
And we open the fridge,
Yeah.
and in the freezer,
Yeah.
there's a big bottle of alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? Like,
It's a frat house.
I didn't even know you can freeze alcohol. To be honest with you, like, can you put
Yeah.
alcohol in the freezer?
It's a daiquiri.
Right. So again, I didn't experience those kind of stuff. Then,
Yeah. You're like, I thought you
you
were going to school for engineering. What is
yeah,
this?
yeah. What? Anyway, he was grounded.
Yeah.
Again, I guess he drank too, but
Yeah.
it didn't affect him that much. But
Yeah.
these are the stuff that going off to college, as a parent, we don't
Yeah.
know because
Yeah.
we never been to college in that
Yeah.
type of environment where you're on
Absolutely.
campus and you're
Mm-hmm.
exposed to all these stuff. So
Yeah.
the actually second year in college was worse
Yeah.
because he's in a frat house and all they
Mm-hmm.
do is party,
Yeah.
right? So we don't know.
At
We're
an
looking at
engineering
the
school.
we're looking at the grades. I'm like, bro, you're
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah.
But after that, we figure out, man, you're a partying all the time. So as parents, again, we
Yeah.
don't know. We raise our kids and we try
Yeah.
to do our best as parents and they get out
Yeah.
into this environment and they become a part of the environment they're exposed to, right? It's
Yeah.
like, well, where did you learn to drink?
Yeah.
Like, "Yeah, well, Dad, I'm drinking in college. Well,
Yeah.
you didn't see
It's a
me
time.
drinking at home.
It's a time and place for everything, man. It's called college.
Yes. So again, we didn't realize that. Again, we think we raise this beautiful kids, and they're gonna
Yeah.
just they
Yeah.
won't deviate from what they're taught.
Yeah.
That's BS. They're
Yeah,
gonna
man.
do everything that you didn't teach them. So
They're exploring and
yes.
experimenting. Yeah.
Yeah, so again,
Yeah.
we learned that. We learned, and that was very tough because, as I said, I popped the freezer and I saw a big thing of alcohol, and I'm like, "Can you do this? Can you?"
Yeah.
And it's normal. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, expectation is, you
Yeah.
send your kids off to college, and they're not going to come back the same
Yeah.
person. They're going to be
Absolutely.
exposed to a lot of stuff, and you need to be aware.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that until I saw it because
Yeah.
they're not going to tell you, "Hey, Dad, I
Yeah.
start smoking."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. They're not going to tell
Yeah.
anything like you're going to see or smell it
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
or they're,
Yeah.
they're smoking weed or something.
Yeah.
It's what it is. So
Yeah.
again, one of the things of parents is to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that are out there and you have
Yeah.
to educate your child. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, this is what we know that college kids drink, but
Yeah.
we didn't know that in a frat house it would be like
Yeah.
that. It's like
Yeah.
it,
It's
it was
24/7.
it was 24/7. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you learn in that environment?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had to move him out the
Yeah.
third year,
Yeah.
and put
Yeah.
him somewhere where he could study
Yeah.
and be by himself. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
learning experiences.
Yeah,
College
man.
is you can be a great child from your parents' house, go to college, and you're totally different. You lose
Yeah,
it.
man. Yeah.
You know.
It could
So,
change you. Yeah. But
right.
no, I
So,
think that's a great story, man. I appreciate you sharing that because it's one of those unforeseen things. Because the
right.
last thing you were thinking about was, you know, what you saw in the fridge.
Right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, can you freeze alcohol? Because I've never
Yeah.
seen that before. And I don't drink, so I'm not.
Yeah.
But it was like eye opening for me. I'm like, and this
Yeah.
thing was like this huge. It's not
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
bottle. It's
No, no,
like
no, no. Costco size.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Costco. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So we laughed about it, and and
Yeah.
again,
And you made it through most importantly. Like he survived, he
he survived.
graduated,
He
he's
right.
independent. So
Yes.
this was just one of those growing pains, growing joys along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
You as a parent, one of the things that as parents we think we have the answer for everything, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, what drives us is our experience and how we grow.
Mm.
So
Mm.
some of the things that we do, example, sports. We did sports when I was growing up. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that's going to help them. But if a parent doesn't know,
Yeah.
you don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to learn a lot of stuff, and a lot of times we're wrong.
Yeah.
We're not, we don't have that magic one, that success. Yeah, here's success, just draw it out. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And I
and
think and the phrase I use for that all the time, I think it's a famous quote from I want to say it's Benjamin Franklin, right? And the quote is this: it's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just isn't so. It's the things you believe to be true that are not true. And I think
ex
that's what you're alluding to when you say sometimes parents don't know,
right.
um, and they think they do.
And again, to think about it, a lot of the immigrants that come to this country, some are not well educated. So
Hmm.
how do you navigate that? You don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
English is not your first language. So
Yeah.
it's like you have a strike against you
Yeah.
when you
Absolutely.
come here, and it's very difficult to navigate. I run a business, and um, I have customers that come to my shop. We're in auto repair business,
Hmm.
and one of the gentlemen that comes to my shop, he's the principal,
Hmm.
and we were talking, and the school that he's principal of is not one of those school that perform very well.
Hmm.
He's also Jamaican, so
Hmm.
we can
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
and talk real stuff.
Yeah.
And I said to him, "Well, why did you go to that school? Man, you got the work." And he said, "No, that's the school I wanted
Yeah.
because I understand what I need to fix."
Yeah.
Right? So from an immigrant perspective,
Yeah.
he can relate.
Yeah.
Sorry, he can relate to coming here and have to go
Hmm.
through that process. And
Hmm.
we know the demographic is changing in
Hmm.
this country.
Hmm.
You know, you have a lot of Central American, Spanish
Hmm.
people that now live here, and
Hmm.
most of them don't speak English. They don't know how to navigate. So you need people like those immigrants who
Hmm.
understand how those people, what issues they don't even know the issues they're having,
Yeah. Or what they're gonna
right?
face, or
Or
what
what
they're
they're
up
going to face. So
against.
they,
Yeah.
they come to school, and there are programs for the kids, but nobody tells them.
Yeah.
Right? You can't even talk to them because English is not their first language. So he understands.
Yeah.
So, immigrants, we can have that discussion about immigrants and what they provide, but um, you need more immigrants to help immigrants to go through that
Absolutely.
process, right?
Yeah.
It's what
Yeah.
you're doing is fantastic because,
Hmm.
when I moved here, 30 years ago, I didn't have a magic one to tell me, hey, this is how you navigate. You just try to figure it out. And
Yeah.
in figuring out, you make a lot of mistake on the way. So you
Hmm.
need programs like, what you're doing
Hmm.
to help people and say, hey, you know, be proactive, get involved, and and try to figure it out. But none of us
Yeah, man.
have the magic wand. We
No,
try
not
to
at all.
stumble through it. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, I think that's great, Oz. And we're gonna sum it up here, man. I think for one of my favorite people in the world used to always tell me you have to know what to ask for, right? And I
yes,
think, by you sharing your story, it's helping people know what to ask for, right? But also knowing what to ask for is also knowing what to ask yourself. Like, what should I be doing next? What else can I do? Right? And then also think about the questions you need to ask. Okay, who's the school counselor? Who's the principal? Who's the assistant principal? Who are the people that I can talk to help me figure out how best to support my child as we're going through this process? Who are the other parents that I can,
yes.
have dinner with and try to build a community and put forth the right support system to support all the kids who are going through, similar experiences.
But one of the things, just going through the experience is most of the stuff that we learned was actually from parents,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Parents, when we were doing elementary to middle school, a parent says, "Hey, why is he not doing that?" I'm like, "What is that?"
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's very important to actually talk to parents.
Absolutely.
A lot of these parents, they were sometimes teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah,
retired. They understand the system very well. So
absolutely.
you're right.
Yeah.
Parents, you can learn a lot from parents.
Yeah. And I think that's the nuance, right? Because a lot of times immigrants try to just stay out of the way, right? And they're not, as willing to like ask questions, right? They kind of just stay out of the way, or they try to just, just be humble and not get in the way. But you have to have some level of, proactiveness,
All right. So
in this process when it comes to your
one of the
child.
other biggest problem as immigrants, for me, most of the people that ever helped me was people who don't look like me.
Hmm.
They are not from Jamaica.
Hmm.
They're Caucasian. They're
Hmm.
Asians. They're
Hmm.
from different places. They're not
Hmm.
like me. And
Yeah.
don't try to associate yourself with those people who look like you because they
Yeah.
don't necessarily have all the answers. So, for
Right.
instance, um, people who live here,
Hmm.
who grew up here, who know more than you can get a lot from them. Don't try to, because you're Hispanic or you're Black or you're Haitian or you're
Yeah.
African, try to get out of your comfort zone. Talk to people. Get involved. Have your kids play sports with people who don't look like you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Always try to do stuff with people. We run businesses and
Hmm.
we don't when we run our business, we don't say we want this people to work, come do a bit. We want everybody. We meet
Hmm.
people from, you're talking about immigrants. We meet people from countries that I don't know exist. I
Hmm.
meet people from Madagascar. And
Hmm.
when we meet these people, we sit
Yeah.
and we talk and
Yeah.
it's like, tell me about
Yeah.
what you eat.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
about how you live.
Yeah.
There is a country, Papua New Guinea.
Hmm.
So there's an island next to Papua New Guinea.
Hmm.
And a lady came in there. I met a lady that came to do business with us a couple of months ago. And I said, the name was unusual. And I said,
Hmm.
where's this name from? And she said, Malaysia.
Hmm.
And I said, we're in Malaysia. And she started explaining to me. Said, well,
Hmm.
we're right next to Papua New Guinea. And
Hmm.
I'm like, wow. So at the end of the day,
Yeah, man.
as immigrants, there are
Yeah.
people who come here from every
All
aspect
over.
of
All
all over
over.
the
Yeah.
world.
You
And
have to
at the end of
connect.
on the end of the day, they want the same thing. They want to provide for their family. They want their kids to do well. They want the best for their life. There's, you can see the political atmosphere in the past couple of years, how difficult it has been for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I want to say, as immigrants, you know we come here to
Hmm.
live the best life, to do
Hmm.
our best, and to make
Hmm.
sure our family is taken care of. And that's all we
Yeah.
want. We
Yeah,
don't want
man.
anything else. We don't
Yeah.
care about the politics.
Yeah.
We want to be a part of,
Yeah.
what America has to offer, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Oz, thank you, man. This is really helpful. I appreciate you being open and giving. You've given us a lot. You know what I mean? You've given us a lot, man. And I really appreciate you, man. I've known you for a while. You're an awesome, awesome human being. I really appreciate you sharing your story and being so candid. And, it's a lot of tips, a lot of gems, man. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And then as I said before, the work you're doing is going to help a lot of people, and we need more people like you. So,
Yeah, man.
you
That's
know,
the
we
aim.
we like to see We like to see people from where we're from in that
Yeah.
region do
Yeah.
well and support them. The other thing is support.
Yeah.
We need to support people like us,
Yeah.
and try to help them to get to that next level.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you, man.